The Justice Department has released a scathing report on the Baltimore Police Department, which found routine discrimination towards African Americans, rampant use of excessive force, all without proper accountability for misconduct.
Officials launched the investigation after Freddie Gray's death, and today's report comes 2 weeks after the acquittal of all 6 officers involved in Gray's death. Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake spoke earlier, saying major reforms are underway.
The only way that we're going to be safer as a city is when the community and the police have a mutual respect and trust, and we can get the work of policing done. There's nothing that the community can do on its own to create the neighborhoods, the safe neighborhoods that we want. We have to heal our city. It's not easy work. You know, while people say, well, who's to blame and what's the answer is we have to get through this tough work together.
CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid has been following the case from Washington. Paula, what are some of the biggest takeaways from this investigation?
Vlad, this report really validates what a lot of people in Baltimore have been saying for a long time about the relationship between the community and the police. Here in this report, the Department of Justice lays out how the police department systematically stopped, searched, and arrested black residents at a significantly higher rate than any other population, with no way to justify it other than discrimination, really. They also lay out how the police force used excessive force against people, even those with mental illness. So really, this report lays out a picture of a police department whose relationship with the community is essentially broken.
Paula, why is the Justice Department releasing these details now?
That's a great question. Now, we saw that the state was not able to successfully prosecute any of the officers charged in the arrest and death of Freddie Gray. The facts of this case just do not match up to the charges that were brought. And while it would be very difficult to actually successfully charge anyone in this case, the Department of Justice is sending a message here. They're saying, look, there's a culture that gave rise to the situation that resulted in the arrest and death of Freddie Gray, and that culture is going to change. So it seems that now, just as you noted earlier, just 2 weeks after all of the charges in that case were dismissed, the Department of Justice wants to send a message to the residents of Baltimore saying we are going to change the system. Even though we couldn't get a conviction in that specific case, we're going to change the culture and the system that gave rise to it.
You know, it's interesting, Paula, looking through the report, there are a couple of things that strike me as curious. One, it appears that police officers in Baltimore, according to the report, were being trained improperly. I mean, that's what the report states. At one point, even at the police academy, the information that they're receiving from their superior officers is unconstitutionally incorrect. And so even before they get out on the streets, they may think that they're doing the right thing because that is how they've been trained. So the question is here, it's not to impugn police officers, to say, look, even from the very beginning, from the moment you put on the uniform, the instructions that you've been receiving have been incorrect. There was another incident that I read in that report where a sergeant was riding along with a police officer, and he asked the police officer to disperse the crowd, and he said, well, I don't have a reason to do that. And the sergeant, so a superior officer, said, well, make one up.
It's such a great point, because it's not that all of the police officers here are trying to, discriminate or acting unconstitutionally.
Right.
It's a problem with the system and with the culture. And that was really clear throughout the trials of the officers who were charged in the arrest and death of Freddie Gray. The whole issue of whether or not they have a policy about seatbelts. It was clear nobody really knew, and that was part of the problem. So again, these types of issues, repeatedly, the Department of Justice and the city's leadership were adamant that it is a few bad apples, but also a system and a culture that allows this type of illegal policing to become widespread. And that's what they want to attack. The system and the culture, and training is such an important part of that. And that is where most of the cost, the significant cost of these reforms, will be. Getting these officers training, getting them the resources and the equipment to do their job properly and legally.
Paula, how do you think this new report's going to affect the investigation into Freddie Gray's death?
The Department of Justice still has an ongoing federal civil rights investigation into the death of Freddie Gray. But the facts that we've learned at trial, it is just not going to be possible to actually charge any of those officers. Now, the Department of Justice has not officially said that, but as a lawyer, I've seen these trials, I've seen the case. The federal government has an even higher bar than the state. The state wasn't able to win any of those cases, had to dismiss the remaining cases. It is not a matter of if, but when the Department of Justice will close the federal investigation into the arrest and death of Freddie Gray. But while this report today did not address that incident specifically, they're going after the system, so hopefully there will not be more Freddie Grays going forward.
All right, Paula Reid reporting for us in Washington. Paula, we thank you.